Good evening. Tonight's story is about someone who travels back in time, just at the cusp of time travel's invention. But what he finds in the past is not possible. I traveled back to the Victorian era, but the world I saw was nothing like in the history books. They lied to us. They lied to all of us. The history books are wrong. The era of Queen Victoria isn't an era of prosperity for the British Empire. It isn't an era of prosperity for any empire. It's not even an era of humanity. It was the year 2025 when I went back in time. Norvinium doesn't allow its test subjects to use the internet in the past to post online and mess up the timeline. But I have to. I don't know when this post will reach the internet, as my phone can't lock onto the signal from one time. It might come to the public in the year 1999 or the year 2050. In the year 2024, a tech startup called Norvinium had unveiled the first prototype of the world's first working time machine, and they had recruited 100 volunteers to test run it. I was one of them. Norvinium had run people through hundreds of vigorous exercises and tests to make sure the people were safe when they went through the machine. We were given special computers and phones that could catch a signal through time, which I am using right now to type this out. On the 13th of March 2025, all 100 of them sat in their respective time machines and went off in time to 100 different time periods. I was selected to go to London in 1867, and I was pretty excited to do it. I was a history geek who especially loved aristocracy and the monarchy of many different countries, so getting to go to the era of one of the most famous monarchs of all time felt almost like a blessing to me. Oh, how naive I was. On the 13th of March 2025, at exactly 12:13 p.m., I pressed the button in my time machine, number 79, and fell through the timeline. I couldn't see anything. It felt like I was falling for many hours. When I reached the end of the timeline, I arrived in the year 1867. The plan was for me to land in or near Portman Square before disembarking and exploring parts of London. However, what happened to me was part of no plan. It was nothing me or the team at Norvinium could have changed. The place I landed in looked different from what I knew of London in the 60s. It sort of looked like the photos and the paintings, but it sort of didn't. All the shapes were there, and the textures were there, but there was no color. Everything was different shades of bright white. You could see textures and shapes, but the color was gone. Even the names of the places were wrong. A sign on the street said that place was Queen Anne Street, but the place was a square that vaguely resembled Portman Square. The buildings were wrong and didn't match the photos I had seen. The city itself was completely empty. I was worried that something had gone wrong. Maybe I was in the wrong place or something. My mind even thought that I could be in the wrong timeline, whatever that piece of science fiction thought meant. Obviously, this place was a far cry from the London that I had visited 2 years ago. But this wasn't the city of London that I had read about in history class either. I walked around the area, looking for any signs of life that I could find. There were a few shops that had the open sign hung out, but had no one inside, not even the shopkeepers. I passed by a bakery that was displaying some sort of bread on the display window, but I didn't dare eat or even touch it. Walking around, I arrived at what would have been Oxford Street, but had a sign saying Pentonville Road. Exploring the place, I found that not a single door to any building or place was locked. I could enter any place I wanted to. The place was empty, but for record keeping, which I was told to do, I took pictures and videos of the city, and I started writing down the things I saw, parts of which I'm using in this blog here. Being alone in such a huge city was, in a way, almost terrifying. I had not heard a sound nor felt any wind since I got here. I had fulfilled my quota of being in the past for at least an hour, and decided to go back. I turned around to go back to my time machine, but I couldn't. The signs had changed. It now read Uxbridge Road. Many of the buildings had changed. The path I had come from had been replaced by a huge building. I called my team back at Norvidium to let them know that I had been stranded and that I needed a rescue team immediately, but all of the rescue teams were busy. All of the 100 volunteers were in need of rescue from some situation that they had found themselves in. Help wouldn't be coming for at least a few hours. As soon as I turned back around, I saw a figure moving towards me. He was wearing a brown-colored coat and trousers. His skin was paper white and he had no face. Where his eyes were supposed to be were two red, glowing holes. He had no other facial features. When he neared me, I noticed that the clothes he was wearing appeared to be almost 10 sizes too big for him, almost like there was no body under those clothes, or the body he did have was thinner than a metal wire. I realized that he was really far away from me, but he was moving towards me at an alarming rate. He was also humming in a strange tone that made me uneasy. He was not walking, but almost sliding towards me. His movement looked like one of those early 2000 video game movements where the walking animation would glitch out and not match the floor. Seeing him made me really terrified for some reason, and I started running. But I felt that he would catch up to me. I ran inside what looked like a restaurant combined with a barbershop and closed the door behind me. As soon as I pulled down all the curtains, he caught up to the door and started beating on it. I pulled a couple of tables and chairs and stacked them to block the door. I sat down on the floor and started waiting for him to go away. I knew that something was horribly wrong with either history or the time machine, so I decided to violate Norvidium's NDA, and I sat down to write this experience down for the whole world to know. When I started writing it down, he was banging on the door. And as of when I'm writing the sentence down, the banging hasn't ended at all. I'm posting this for the world to see and know. I hope that this post reaches the internet world after 2024, so that everyone might believe me. But if you're seeing this post come up before time machines were unveiled to the public by Norvidium, please believe me. I'm extremely scared for my life and I don't know what to do. I'll try to wait out the creature's banging and hope it goes away before my rescue team arrives. I'm going to try to wait it out. I'll be posting an update if something happens and my rescue team doesn't arrive. But I don't know if my update will be published at the correct date and time, or will be displaced by years. I hope that it's a time soon after the first one gets uploaded. Hopefully, Norvidium will just come and rescue me and just take legal action against me for the post, so that I can't give you guys any update. Each bang gets louder than the previous one. God, someone please come and help me, I'm so scared. This isn't a normal world. This isn't a normal place. If this is truly Victorian London, then the history books are completely wrong. I don't know what's happening. Or what happened. All that I'm certain of is that humans are not here in London in 1867. Oh yeah, this is one of those stories that's just so gripping right from the start. I love time travel, but it's really hard to write it in an interesting way. But this is interesting, I would say. So you just reach a point where time travel is possible. It opens up a bunch of, I would say plot holes, but it really depends, again, how it's written. In this case, you're going back in time, where the past isn't what it's supposed to be. There's two theories for time travel. The first one is where you go back in time, and it's the same timeline as the original present. But this one opens up tons of paradoxes. So maybe he's back in time, but it's also a parallel universe. If you do that, then paradoxes aren't possible. I don't know. Either way, does that still mean his present past is in the same style as where he's in now? If that makes any sense? Time travel.